over there is where she's sitting in the long grass. So she's just can see her face ever so slightly. It might from your angle be a bit tough, but if you zoom in for me just over there, you'll see just how camouflaged this lioness is. Go, 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 go. A little bit up to your left. Up, up, and there she is. You see her just behind the trees there? There's her back and her head. Incredible. It's amazing the camouflage of a lioness. So you can see why they're difficult to spot sometimes, but luckily she put her head up for us, and that's why we were able to see her. I wonder if the little cubs are this side or if she's left them behind me here in the drainage, and she's now going to start her movement back towards the Nkuhuma Pride and back towards the west where the rest are. But it would be nice if the little cubbies are out here, because it's going to be very open and we will get a nice view of those little ones from here. And at least she's around. I mean, it's better that she's around. She might do one last suckle, but I don't see any signs of the cubs. And also, I should be in first gear, not in third gear. Otherwise, we're going to stall. No, the little cubs I don't think are here. We would have seen little heads popping up already. So I think they're behind me and back at the den site where she was suckling them. And she's now starting her movement back towards the rest of the pride. So there we go. She's just lying on her own and is taking it a little easy. I'm sure she's been suckling them, she's groomed them, she's made sure that they're well fed, and is making sure that they're going to be okay. And once they're alright, they're fed, they're groomed, looked after, then she's going to now start, like I say, heading back to the pride to be able to see if she can go and get some nutrients for herself. Remember, these little ones are going to drink from her, and they're going to absorb a lot of the nutrients that she's able to produce, and therefore she's going to have a tough time of it. And she's starting to yawn, which means I think she's going to start moving already. I don't think it's going to be too long that she's going to be up and going. Mallow, you want to know how long until the cubs join the pride permanently? Probably another, I would say, 6 to 8 weeks until they'll be joining the pride and moving around, and even then they'll only join for carcasses. In terms of actually walking with the pride, generally it's at about 6 months that they'll start to kind of move with the pride all the time. And there we go, up she gets. You can see she's a little on the skinny side, which is because she's having to move a lot more than the rest of the pride. She's having to go back and forth. You probably find she's also not getting as much nutrients because she's missing out on some of the kills. And so it's a tough life being a mom. But off she goes now. She's going to start striding her way, I think, back towards the west and towards where she came from last night. So it's going to be a long walk back that way. Unless the cubs are hidden somewhere there, but I don't think so. Sparto, you're asking what time they usually hunt. Well, there's no specific time for lions or leopards or any of the cats to hunt. They're opportunistic animals. Opportunistic animals, which means that they will hunt as soon as they can, when they can. Any opportunity that comes along, they will take it, whether that be night, day, sunrise, sunset, hot, cold, doesn't matter. They just hunt whenever they can and whenever an opportunity presents itself. So it'll be, could be now she might start hunting. If she sees an impala by herself, you never know, she might try and hunt it by herself. But in all likelihood, she's probably going to go to the rest of the pride, and they'll then want to start hunting this evening. So we saw last night when we got to the Nkuhuma Pride around sunset, that's when they woke up and started to move. But she's definitely left the cubs now. The cubs must be in the den. They must be happy there, and it's okay. We got to see them this morning, and it'll be interesting just to follow her along. I don't think we're going to be able to keep her for all the time because she's going to cross a very bad drainage at some point. So we're going to just follow her anyway, though, and see how she goes and whether or not she goes all the way to the west, because that's going to be a very, very long way to get to where that is. Now, while I follow her, let's go back to Brent and see how he's doing on his quest for some of the tawny cats. Well, our lioness has gone stationary for the time being. She's just having a little sit down. We haven't gotten too much further than where we were just now. She kind of moved along, lay down, and then was up again, and now down for a little bit. I don't think she's going to be down for too long. You can see She's still looking around and is quite awake. She's staring into the distance and checking what's going on, and she's really not that sleepy, quite wide-eyed as you can see there. So I don't think she'll be down for too much longer. I'm pretty sure she's going to be up and moving, and she's got a long way to go from where I gather the Nkuhuma Pride is. They're close to the Simbambili Arathusa cut line, but quite far to the west, so she's got a long trek in order to find them. I'm sure she's hoping that they're going to come east. Oh, I spoke too soon. It's now down to sleep again, but I'm sure they're hoping they come east, and then I wouldn't be surprised if maybe a buffalo is on the menu at some point. Hopefully, like I said, that pride of lions in the north chases those buffaloes south and into the waiting jaws of the Nkuhuma Pride here on Djuma, because that would just be the perfect way for our evening to play out. Of course, the Nkuhuma Pride would probably only hunt that buffalo way after drive, but tomorrow morning, even, it's fine. The Nkuhuma Pride can wait until the morning, and as we get going, then the buffalo can come and we can have a showdown between the two of them. And judging by the looks of the pride, they really could do with a nice big meal. It's amazing though how lions can go from emaciated and thin and looking a little bit on the sort of side of skinny to completely fat and healthy after one meal. We saw the Styx Pride yesterday and how they were big barrels after their waterbuck, and it would be the exact same for the Nkuhumas. If we had to get a buffalo carcass for them, they would be massive by the time they finished it. They would be really in great condition again. So muscular structure is really good. It's just that she's a little bit on the skinny side because of all this moving that she's been doing up and down. So I'm pretty sure she will hope for a buffalo carcass, because it means that she can have a good feed, come and suckle the cubs, go back, feed again, and keep that nutrient level up for these little ones so that they stay fat, happy and healthy, which is what we want as well. We want our cubs to be healthy and to survive. And you know, she's in a period now where it's the most dangerous part for these cubs. The first 3 months is very difficult for a lioness. She's got to go back and forth, and she expends masses of energy trying to look after these little ones and trying to keep up with the pride and keep nutrient levels up, and then still supply that to the cubs and make sure that they're surviving well, as well as choosing the right places to leave them in order for them to stay safe. You can see now she's leaving those cubs all on her own. She's going to go and try to get back to the pride, and those cubs are going to have to fend for themselves for the next 24 hours or so until she comes back. Hopefully it won't be 24 hours. They generally should be coming back every sort of 12 hours. We see them moving backward and forth, but it could be 24 hours, a full day, until she gets back to where they are. And then you'll find a situation where, you know, she's got to provide nutrient-rich milk for them to survive, and who knows what moves through here at that time. There could be hyenas that come through, leopard, other lions, and so those cubs are really at a dangerous point in life. The other problem that she's got is that she's the only lioness denning. Remember last year when the Nkuhuma Pride denned, there was 2 lionesses pretty close together that denned, and then a third one about a month later, so it wasn't really too long until the third one was, and so those 3 could help each other and share the responsibility, and they also moved around as a unit, which meant that hunting wise they were able to bring down small prey animals, and also the droughts helped in that they could bring down buffalo, and that meant that the cubs grew quickly because these guys were providing nutrition for them, and they were able to kind of stay in close proximity, which is a little bit different to what we're seeing this year. OD farming, you're wondering why she's the only lioness with the cubs. Well, it's quite simple, is that the 3 lionesses that we know have the cubs currently, so those sub-adults, and they're still dependent on those lionesses. So those lionesses are not going to come into estrus probably for another, I would say, 6 months to a year, maybe even longer, until they'll come into an estrus and start mating again. So it's going to be a while if all those cubs survive, or all those sub-adults survive. So those lionesses are going to be a while. The only other 2 lionesses is this one and Amber Eyes. Amber Eyes, we don't know. I mean, we've never really seen her with a cub. There was that one mystery cub in the middle of the year, I think it was in June, that no one's really sure what happened or where it came from or what its outcome was, but that could theoretically have been Amber Eyes' cub, and must have been Amber Eyes' cub if we think of the time frame, because this lioness must have been pregnant at the time. And so that cub, unfortunately, is no longer. There's no ways that cub is alive, and it means then that Amber Eyes really is the only other female that could potentially have a chance to have cubs, and she would have had to have mated, which means that she's falling outside of the time that this female is having cubs. So even if she's mating now, it's still going to be 3 months' time until she gives birth to hers, and so it's, you know, they haven't been quite in sync. So that's why she's the only lioness with the cubs currently, or new cubs. There's no real sort of other lionesses that can potentially produce now and in the time frame while she's having hers. So I mean, Amber Eyes, it would be such a nice thing if she did produce cubs, but as far as we know, she never has, and it will be really interesting if she ever will, because I suppose that little cub was hers. I mean, it can't be anybody else's. If we just do the maths, it has to be her cub, because this lioness, there's no way she could have mated and fallen pregnant and had these cubs in that time frame. We're far too close to that time for her to have mated again and had cubs. So it has to have been Amber Eyes' cub, and maybe she can produce cubs, and in the future we will see her bringing cubs up and raising cubs. When we saw her yesterday, she did have signs that she'd been mating, but a few bite marks on the back of the neck, and so I wonder if maybe she hasn't started mating again, and we'll see her falling pregnant. It would be nice if she did, and it would be also nice for this female if she then denned in the next sort of 6 to 8 weeks, if she had fallen pregnant from the mating and was in this area and helping this female out. Because it's interesting that Amber Eyes and this female must have had a very tight bond last year, because when the Nkuhuma Pride spent so much time here on Djuma, we used to find Amber Eyes and this female often roaming around together in random places. Even the beginning of this year, used to see these two around Treehouse Dam, moving around all over the place, and so they seem to have gotten on and have formed a bond over the fact that they didn't have cubs. And so it would really, I think, help this female if Amber Eyes was around with her, and I'm sure the two of them together would really do very well in raising cubs should they want to. So it would be really nice if she did fall pregnant and have cubs in this sort of time period, and obviously for the growth of the Nkuhuma Pride, the more females that have cubs, the better. But either way, it's out of 5 lionesses, to have 4 of them with cubs currently is really very good, and is a testament to the Birmingham's ability to defend the area. Oh, Laura Moy is saying, you wonder why lions don't bring food to a lioness with cubs. You know, wolves do it, and the painted dogs or wild dogs, they also will do those kind of things. Well, the thing is about it is because the lionesses, it depends. At the moment, the rest of the lionesses, they're trying to protect their cubs that are at the carcass themselves. So coming back all the way here, expending the energy, leaving that carcass unprotected, or bringing bits of that carcass all the way here is difficult. Remember also that lions are hunting big animals. They hunt something like a buffalo. There's no ways that the Nkuhuma Pride can drag a buffalo from Simambili all the way to where we are now. I mean, that's over sort of 7-8 kilometers, and a buffalo weighs almost 2,000 pounds. So even if the entire pride took turns, I can guarantee you they wouldn't even get halfway in a day. So it's going to be, that's the other side of it, is taking food like that is almost impossible. And then the third thing is, if you take food to a den, you are taking a scent to a den. So you're taking the smell of meat and rotting meat, and that means that sort of predators and scavengers are going to follow that scent and come in, and then it's going to bring things like hyena, lion, leopard into where the den site is for that female, and it's going to put those cubs at risk. So rather than that, they eat, they make sure that they consume meat, that then gets pushed into the milk nutrients then get transferred to the cubs grow very fast during that first little period, and once they reach that 3-4 month phase, they're then starting to be taken to the carcasses. So the mother comes and fetches them and then walks them all the way to the carcasses, and then they will stay and spend time there, and then they'll follow the moms around. So it's much better system that way. She can look after them a lot better, and they're not also being at carcasses where things like hyenas can arrive and they're then in danger. This way she's bringing no scent, she's not having any vultures around, she can suckle them in peace, and there's really little that's going to follow her. You'll also find she's going to use different pathways to get you. She's never going to walk exactly the same, and that means that the hyenas won't be able to track her scent every single time. So she'll go west this time, tomorrow she goes south, the next day she's north, and so it makes it a lot harder for the hyenas to pinpoint where she's coming and going from, and therefore the cubs survive. So there's all method in their madness. Remember also with den animals like wild dogs and wolves, there is generally one member that is left permanently with the cubs, or the pups should I say, and they can then sort of disorientate a predator and lead a predator away from that area. Lions don't have that ability to do that because they are needed with the hunting, and like I say, they roam quite big distances and they don't use a central point for the den. The den is fairly mobile and gets moved all over the place, as opposed to what we see with things like wolves and wild dogs, where there's a central den and then the pack moves around that area. So just slightly different with them, and it works for both species. Lions are fairly successful. We've seen that, you know, their numbers within the Sabi Sands are doing okay. It's just that we've had a lot of different males come through, and that's what's affected them. In terms of den sites and actual females keeping cubs alive, it's actually not been too bad. The Sabi Sands, most of the females are pretty good at what they do. It's just, unfortunately, the coalition males have been such a sort of swift turnover that's led to a decline in the population of lions and a decline in all the prides throughout the Sabi Sands, really. There's not many prides that have actually grown in the time that I've been here. In fact, the only prides that have grown since I've been here is the Mungen pride, the Mungen breakaway pride, and the Salalas. Those are the only ones that have actually in some way expanded. Every other pride has actually reduced and has no longer the same numbers as to when I started here. So it's an interesting dynamic, and like I say, it's because of the change in coalition males that keep coming through. Alita, you're asking if lionesses from the pride will come back for these cubs if this lioness dies. In all likelihood, no. And the reason why I say that is because none of those females currently have very small cubs. If there was a female that had very small cubs, then it's possible. And there have been sort of outlying cases where females have adopted the offspring of sisters or aunts or mothers or whatever the case may have been. And we know the Charleston female down the south, she adopted her sister's cubs and raised them. So they do it sometimes, but in the case of the Charleston female, her cubs got killed, and I think that mothering instinct, when her cubs got killed, plus the mother of the other cubs, meant that she took on cubs because she was still producing milk. That instinct to mother was still there, and that's why she did it. If it was a lioness that has got older sub-adults that she's still dependent on her, she's not going to now have the burden of trying to suckle cubs because she's not producing milk. Remember, she's got her own cubs to worry about, and so these cubs are still too young to survive without milk. They still need milk up until they're around 6-7 months old, so they need to have a female that's producing milk in order to save them. They're not going to survive just on meat at this age. They need that milk, and they need all the antibodies and all the bits of nutrients that the mom is passing on that's going to help them fight infections and get their digestive tracts working properly, and all of those kind of things. That's all needed before they're able to start consuming meat full time. And it means that, you know, she's got to, unfortunately, unless there's another lioness that has cubs fairly soon and is producing milk, these ones would then be unfortunately left by themselves and not looked after at all. Right, our Nkuhuma female is out cold, so I think we're going to carry on. We're going to leave her be. I was hoping that the cubs would be here. We know that Brent Leo Smith in the Mara has got 2 lionesses there, and it seems like they're on the hunt, so we're going to try and find a spotted creature of our own, and while those lionesses look for food.